Yo, what's up, Rhymes? Going on? Another mail, what's happening? Good afternoon. Yo, what's up, Clack? What's going on, brother? I see you. Hope all is well, man. Hope all is well. Please share this video. Um, please share this video. So I'm just sharing it in the different groups. I'm going to give you my review of the Kenneth Chamberlain movie. I think it's a must-see for everybody who believes in true justice and criminal justice reform. I think this movie is a must-see. The Kenneth Chamberlain movie, The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain. The movie is a must-see. What's up, brother Lewis? Brian Pritchett, how you doing, brother? I'm just trying to share. I'm just trying to share it in different groups before I get started. Just trying to share it because I want people to go see this movie when it comes out, when it hits theaters. And I think it's going to create or continue the conversation that's needed in the relationship between the Black community and police. So I think this is good. You know, this is Black Westchester Magazine. This is Black Law Enforcement Unplugged, where we talk about police and community issues with no filter, because we believe that it is definitely needed. And who better to talk about law enforcement and community relations than law enforcement officers? And who better to talk about accountability of law enforcement? More people. Yes, I give Jay-Z his props for prison reform, but I think, brother, we need to be more, we need to talk about more the relationship between the police and the Black community, because the police is the entry point of prisons. If we address policies and procedures and training, and we address the racial bias, racial profiling, then we wouldn't have to talk about prisons. People are in prisons because of policies and policing. So yes, prison reform is needed, but we also need to talk about the racist policies in this police culture. And I see my brother Kenneth Chamberlain is watching, and I just want to talk about, and brother, if you can, I sent you the link so you could come in on the show. But I wanted to talk about, which will be on Black Westchester Magazine, an actual review of the Kenneth Chamberlain movie. I think that when it hits theaters, I pray that everybody will go see it, because it's a movie for your behind. I will admit, Kenny told me, man, people were crying in the movie when he had seen it, when it went to the different film festivals. And we're usually, machismo, man, movie gonna make me cry. I will be the first to admit that I cried Thursday night, and I cried Saturday. I saw it twice, and both times, knowing the outcome, knowing what the movie was about, I still cried. And let me tell you, man, I cried for the Chamberlain family. I cried for victims of police criminality throughout the nation. And I also cried because I was embarrassed as a Black law enforcement officer that officers will act like this. I'm not surprised, but I am embarrassed. Yes, the mindset has to change. But, how do we change the mindset, right? How do we change the mindset without proper law enforcement leadership, without leadership that will not tolerate that type of mindset? We have to we have to have the proper leadership to change the mindset. We have to have proper legislation to go along with that leadership, right? Why, we live in a progressive state, New York State, and the state assembly and the state senate has yet to pass a bill for independent special prosecutor. It's just right now, it's just what they call a executive order from Governor Cuomo. So when Governor Cuomo is not governor, that executive order doesn't exist anymore. We have to address legally that we are still looked at as property. Justice B. Cheney's decision that there's no law for a Black man that a white man has to have to respect. That's from the Supreme Court. That has yet to be overruled, and it's still in the DNA of law enforcement. So, we have a lot of work to do. But I want to give a quick review of the movie. Everybody needs to go see the movie. The movie is a gut check for politicians. The movie is a gut check for those who claim that we are fighting for police reform and fighting for justice. You get to see Mr. Chamberlain, and shout out to Frankie Faison. He did an excellent portrayal of Mr. Chamberlain. Sandy Bernarby was there. She said, I never met Mr. Chamberlain, but I feel like I met him watching the movie. He captivated even the mental health of Mr. Chamberlain, and how we escalate as law enforcement officers, and knowing a person that has a mental history. It showed how untrained the police officers were. And the only one that had common sense, the only cop that had common sense was a former teacher in trying to de-escalate Mr. Chamberlain. And let me tell you something. One of my mentors, Professor Jimmy Bell from Jackson State University, he always said that the best police officers come out of the social service when they either study sociology, or they're social workers, and they come into the police. He said they make the best police officers, according to Professor Bell. Now, other people might argue, but I mean, he has a doctorate degree. So, all those that believe in degrees, can you argue with the man that was head of Jackson State University's criminal justice and sociology department? But in his opinion, those people that had those type of backgrounds made the best police officers, because they had compassion. They already was in compassion, and the writer of the movie, said, and y'all can watch the video. I think it's on Brenda Crump's page, and I have to share that full video on my page. The writer said that, he was a teacher, before he wrote movies, and teachers are trained in dealing with, mentally ill people. And, I, as a correction officer, I am trained to deal with mentally ill people. But police officers, unfortunately, they don't have yearly ongoing training. And I think that's definitely needed. I really don't think a special unit needs to have. I really think that every police officer needs to be trained. Every law enforcement, if you're a first responder in these days and times, you should be trained in dealing with the mentally ill. You should be trained in that. You should be trained in what we called IPC skills, personal communication skills. You should be yearly trained in that, because you will have to de-escalate someone who already is in an escalated state because of their mental illness. So I think that's very serious. What you will see in this movie, you will see the culture of policing front and center. You will see racial bias front and center in the attitude of the police officers when they enter a building that is majority people of color and poor. You will see Mr. Chamberlain try to de-escalate the escalations of the police officers several times. You will see the cop you will see a hothead cop that shouldn't have been there, as usual. You will see a sergeant lose control of the situation, unfortunately. And you will see a black cop be disrespected. Definitely be disrespected. So that's unfortunate, but that is how that is reality. Ken Bright says, true indeed, begin by bringing in those racist alliance programs, and so how everyone is connected by design. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think this movie is very important. What I also noticed that there was no black elected officials. There was only 2 black elected officials that showed up to the movie. And I know for a fact that the black elected officials was invited and only 2 showed up. I think that's a damn shame that only 2 would show up to this very important movie. I mean, I think in Westchester County, the Killing of Kenny Chamberlain movie was the biggest event for Black History Month. I really do. This was the biggest event for Black History Month. This was the most powerful event for Black History Month. And never before, in front of a group, I felt embarrassed with all this other stuff, but to see this, I literally felt embarrassed being in law enforcement. And I apologized. Saturday, I got up and I apologized to the whole crowd for the actions of these officers. Because somebody had to do it, because nobody else did. Nobody else would. So I did it. I apologize. Because families should not suffer like that. No, nobody's family should suffer like it. So, I think somebody needed to apologize for it. But back to the black elected officials. How do we pass legislation and pass bills if we really don't understand the pain in those victims? We say we do, but a lot of black elected officials don't have any. A lot of black elected officials don't have any relationship with these victims. So, I want to welcome my man AJ. He's getting ready to come in. Hey, what's up, brother?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
Yeah. So, I was basically, talking about the movie and talking about how I felt about the movie and talking about that this movie. Oh, wait a minute. He said I sent the link to David, Mydell, and Erica, and then hopefully one of them can come on. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Okay, great, man. Thank you,
Who said that? Who you talking to?
Kenny.
Oh,
Kenny is on the thread. He's on the thread. He said he sent it to him. He's Kim Bright says yes. Never forget. Salute to you. That's a healing moment. A moment for them to see and hear. Absolutely, man. I'm getting choked up now just thinking about the movie.
yo,
And
that movie is very. The movie was powerful. I'm not sure what you just said. The movie is powerful. The movie is emotional. There's no way that you can walk away from this movie and not feel something or something is wrong with you. I mean, Frankie Faison played an incredible role to the point, and even Sandy Barnaby said, she was like, yo, I felt like I met Mr. Chamberlain for the first time after watching the movie and talking to Frankie. You know what I'm saying? He played he really got into that role. And again, yo, he's a big name. He ain't no up and coming actor that's trying to get his name out there. He got a body of work and he did this movie. Like there's no guarantee. You know, we all expected to eventually make it onto the screen, but there's no guarantee this will make it on the screen. This and that everybody will get to see this. And you know, I guess he felt that story enough and he put himself all in. He gave his all in that movie. Like he ain't just phoned that in. Like he really got into that role, man, and it was incredible. Everybody needs to see this when it's available. Everybody needs to go see this.
absolutely, absolutely, man. I think everybody should see it, and hopefully, they could work and get it into as many theaters as possible. Um, I wrote a piece on it, and in that piece, I talk about my feelings, and I talk about you know my relationship. I start off letting people know that me and Kenny is childhood friends, and getting that call and listening to a grown man, cry about how they killed his father, is something that I will never forget. I don't do this because of my own personal ilk, man. I do it, because people need help in situations like this. And nobody gets it, man. And nobody gets it. I've been around families, from DJ Henry to Kenneth Chamberlain
From
to
Molly Graham.
Molly Graham to Irma Marquez to uh, even Anthony Baez, all the way back then, and to sit with these families as someone who was in law enforcement, to sit with all these families and feel their pain, that they lost a loved one, because a police officer, violated policy. Even Eric Garner's daughter, even Erica Garner, that was my girl.
Right, right, right. We
Bless
met at
her.
that. Y'all spoke at some forum together.
Yeah,
I think
and that
Columbia University or something. Yeah.
we always bigged each other up, man. Always bigged each other up. You know, and watching her develop, like Kenny, watching her develop into a leader that she stepped out and supported Bernie Sanders on his first run and was very vocal, you know, and was very vocal in the need of changing, you know, law enforcement. And I think thanks to her, more than other so-called civil rights leaders in New York, but thanks to her being on the grassroots ground and being as vocal and unapologetic on what came out of her mouth,
Right.
you know, and unapologetic of what came out of her mouth. You know, she was just as effective or more effective than these big organizations, you know, that was supporting her family. You know, so, you know, I've been around with them, you know, and I, you know, and I listen to their pain, you know,
Yo,
and
even being at the funeral, seeing her mom and seeing them like, that was emotional. Just going to the funeral, just seeing them at the funeral was the
that's right.
Eric Garner. Yeah, that was really emotional. Everybody's like, yo, you didn't get a quote. Yo, I wasn't there to like stress her out on she's burying her son. And you know what I'm saying? I ain't put no microphone in her face. I just, I spoke and gave my condolences and kept it moving. I didn't feel like that was like the time. That wasn't like I could get a quote anytime. You know what I'm saying? Like that just was not the time to do that. No picture op or nothing like that. But it
Yeah,
was like that whole scene, yo, yo, I had wrote a piece for Black Westchester that's going to be in my book. I'm doing a book on police brutality. Why the youth is so angry. So I was out there. I brought a T-shirt from the peacekeepers, and they needed kind of like all hands on deck. So we was like, I think they were doing an interview, and they just had me stand in the background. So some young kids, like this was like East New York or something. Some young kids out there was like the cops was all across the street. They wanted to run up on the cops and take their guns, and we had to explain to these cats like how there's no coming back. There's nothing good can come from that. But their whole mentality was, but at least they know when they come through these blocks and they come through this neighborhood not to bring that. They won't never do it again, even if we go to jail, even if we end up dead. Like that's the frustration that comes out of stuff like that, that you can't understand until if you don't people that see this all the time, that frustration, and then there's no justice. That frustration bubbles. Like Martin Luther King said, the riot is the language of the unheard.
absolutely,
And I,
absolutely.
and I don't wanna inspire nobody to riot. And I even think Mayo said something similar to that. Had White Plains rioted afterwards, maybe there would have been something taken more serious about it. Maybe something more would have been done. Maybe the feds would have stepped in or something like that. Because they came to Ferguson, even though they wasn't able to do nothing. They came to Ferguson because of the riot. That's what brought them there. That's what brought them there. The
Yeah,
riot.
yeah, but so what? Nothing came out of it. You know, I
No, no,
mean,
I said nothing came. Nothing came from it.
you know,
I
we
think
we
Eric Holder said the bar was too high or something like that,
oh,
or
well, well,
something he had
well,
something he said.
it goes back. This goes back to legislation,
Right.
laws, right? What was very important about Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, she laid out she laid out 30 years of legislation and laws, and we still haven't got it. We still haven't understood the importance of legislation and laws. Legislation and laws. Like we're going to talk about just this ruling, right, on the 50A law that Mayor Blackwood ruled, and to me, she made a mistake. So what does that create? That create case law, right? So if we
That other
don't,
people can use now.
right, well, it's gonna affect, it's going to affect civil suits. It's going to affect cases. it's going to affect everything, because we're not going to know the history of an officer, right? We're not going. It's going to be up to the judge to determine what a defendant, information defendant gets from the arresting officer. That's crazy, because judges, right, are not allowed to talk about their political opinions. So you can have a racist judge. Now
Right.
you got a racist judge that don't give a fuck. So this officer can have 10 years of complaints of being a racist, and that judge is able to decide that, you know what, you're not even going to fucking, you're not even going to get it, because I feel that it's not is I feel you don't have to have it. You know, it's no different than the judge in the Kenneth Chamberlain case. Like, oh well, straight take out the word nigga. Just because the cops use the word nigga, we can't. You're not allowed to bring that in court, because you're not allowed to show the mindset of the police officers towards Kenneth Chamberlain when they called him a nigga.
But they was able to play the part when Kenneth Chamberlain was upset with them, and whatever he said, they was able to play that part though.
Well, exactly. But these are judges. Like I always say, listen, black people, the most important elected official you need to come out and vote for are judges and your district attorney. They create the laws. They create the laws in court, because when your state assembly and your senate and your city council and your mayor doesn't want to do it, then you go to court and you get case law.
Yo, Ken Bright said 45 brought in 150 or so. Last count I seen was 187, and it's still counting. All the judges that he brought in, so at least 187, and that was over a month ago. And I'm not sure if he's brought some in since then.
Well, absolutely, and that's a whole nother subject. How the Democrats, failed to really understand the importance of this last presidency, and how the federal judges and the Supreme Court judges.
Can I say something real quick? I just saw something. I don't know if it was a spoken word piece or a rap piece or whatever, and the artist was saying, he was breaking down the government, and he said we all came out to vote the first black president, but then we didn't come back 2 years later and do our job to give him the Senate. You know what I'm saying? Like to vote for them Senate seats and them House seats. So he wasn't able to do a whole lot because, you know what I'm saying? Like we ain't do our job.
No, because we didn't understand the process. Black people,
right, and you don't that comes from not understanding exactly.
Exactly. They got a black man. They got a black man. They got a black man in the White House, and we won. Just like they do with local politics, right? They put somebody in office, and then they go away and they go about their business.
Yeah, you go to sleep for 4 years, and then you wake back up in 4 years and vote again. Then you go to sleep for 4 years.
I don't understand. It's ongoing. It doesn't stop on the day that you vote. It's ongoing. Politics is a living entity, right? It's every day, 24/7, 25. Politics rule our lives every day. Every day. This plastic cup that I got right here, there's politics, right? There's politics in the price of this plastic cup and how this plastic cup gets distributed to people and gets sold in the supermarket and put on sale, right? There's politics behind that. There's politics in your gas, right? There's politics in your gas that you put in your car. There's politics in how your car is sold, from your clothes to your underwears to your toothbrush to everything you name it. Politics is around that for you to have it, right? Your vegetables and food and if you eat meat, there's politics in around keeping beef on people's plates, even though it's unhealthy. So Kenny says,
I was about to read that. Go ahead.
yeah, I cannot come on live But it was very upsetting that only King Jenkins and Mayor Patterson Howard and former Councilman Yana Edwards was the only black elected officials that came out. But it's not unusual. Nothing new under the sun.
Now, I said on the radio on WVOX earlier on our show, everybody, like, I don't live in White Plains, but if I was living in White Plains,
Sure, I'll be right back.
you have to pay attention that none of the White Plains elected officials came out. Those are the people that make the laws that govern the area. This happened in White Plains. The screening was in White Plains. And even the African American councilwoman wasn't there, but still, as the mayor of a city, this took place in your city, and this is a very important thing. The least you could do is come and be present. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and my problem is, when he comes up for reelection again, will the community remember? They're gonna just vote him back in because he's gonna give them a few things, and they're gonna vote him back in, and then they're gonna complain again that things don't change. If you continue to do the same thing and expect a different result, that's the definition of insanity. You know what I'm saying? We have to hold these elected officials accountable. We have to. It's that we the people part that we forget about. They can't get in office without us. They need us to get in office. They need to do what they need to do, or it'll be us that get them out of office. But we have to hold them accountable. And I'm just like, I'm real disappointed that again, like I said, I don't live in White Plains, but I'm disappointed that not one White Plains elected official was there. So you had a current mayor and former city council person from Mount Vernon there, and none of the other surrounding municipalities elected officials were there. None of the elected officials, the African American elected officials through Westchester County were there, except for Ken Jenkins.
I say those that are invited, because I don't know who is invited.
Okay.
Right? So we're going to say those elected officials that were invited.
Well, absolutely, and I'm glad you made that.
Or Yonkers elected official, or this city or that city.
Right.
We don't know what elected official was invited. The only thing we know is that out of all of them, and we know there was more than just two, right? Only two showed up, and no White Plains elected official, which is ridiculous. That no White Plains elected official. Sometimes, man, you know what? Sometimes, man, we gotta put away the politics and understand decency.
Absolutely.
Wait, can you just
look? I am just going to go ahead and say, White Plains Common Council President Nadine Hunt Robinson was invited and never replied, and she will want the black vote. Everybody that's my skin folk ain't my kinfolk.
Absolutely. I think, it was a bad move for her not to show up. It was a bad move for her not to even respond to Kenny. And I'm going to leave that right there. The rest is for what Kenny needs to say. And Kenny needs to deal. And Kenny, he's man to deal with it. But, if you're not going to show up, at least respond. We have to, be responsible to each other. Black lives matter. Black lives got to matter to us first, than it matters to anybody else. And the fact that this is her city, I mean, we have to make this. We have to make a better choices in dealing with our community, especially around this movie here, man. This is very important to the White Plains community. And big up to Kenny for even getting it this far, man. Like he
Absolutely.
did it without no help from the big time civil rights organizations. He did it without no help with all these big time people. You know, I mean, this movie happened because of his hard work. Um, he
He
said
said,
the White Plains police chief was invited, but respectfully declined, but did meet with me and my attorneys. Okay, great. You know, that's good, you know, but he should have sent somebody. He should have sent a black representative, you know, to be there. Um, you know, we have to get to that point. You know, he should have sent a black representative to be there. Because of the fact that it's just that important. You know, I mean, sometimes we can't always play Nicodemus and meet with Jesus in the night and in secret. You know, we have to be out in public and show and actually show that we care. You know, you know, I mean, yeah, I mean, come on, man, it's just crazy, man.
yo,
It's
this film, like you just said, is sheer determination and willpower on the part of Kenneth Chamberlain Jr. Like you said, he against all odds, against a rigged system that didn't want to give justice. He's to have come this far and have gotten the story this far, and for it to even be on film right now, it's just amazing. My hats off to the brother. Yeah, man. But we have to do better, man. We just have to do better. We accept whatever they give us, and we just accept whatever they give us. And then they come around for our vote, and they throw a few things at us, and we vote for them again. And I'm not just talking about White Plains here. I'm talking about in all the communities. It's the same in Mount Vernon. It's the same everywhere. You only see these elected officials come to your church or your organization when it's time to get your vote, and then you don't see them for the whole time they're there. Every now and then they might come and give a key person a plaque or a proclamation or something. You know, sometimes they don't even be there to present it. You know.
yeah, yeah. So, all right, but check out my review, man, on blackwestchester.com. It'll be up later on tonight. And, big shout out to Kenny, man. Love you, brother. And I mean, it was a great 2 days, even without the elected officials, but even with those elected officials that showed up, what are you going to do now that you've seen this? What mindset have you changed? Have your mindset changed, or will we be moving forward? In addressing these issues. I mean, we still one thing George Lattimore said. He said we still got a lot. He said, "Man, we got a lot of work to do." And long as
And
he
my
and that,
comment when you said that earlier, that should have come. That's a comment that the mayor should have said. That I would love to have heard that from the mayor of White Plains.
no, he wasn't going to hear that. I
Yeah,
mean, it should have came from a black elected official.
right,
But
right,
big
right,
shout out
right.
to George Lattimore, man. At least he recognizes. See, the first thing, yeah, look, as long as we recognize that there's a problem, we understand that the politics around it takes time. We get that. Can't you look? You can't do 50 years of 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 lack of accountability. You can't change that overnight. We get that, right? We get that. I'm not surprised by that. But as long as we're working towards the goal, and we're moving forward to make it better, I can't be mad at that neither. You
I mean,
know,
at least he recognized that there is a problem, and that's
then I
he's not in denial that there's a problem. That's
right,
a big step.
right. But
Yo,
he's
can I?
doing.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's the difference when you're doing something.
Right.
Don't pull the Nicodemus. And then when I see you, oh my God, it's terrible. It's terrible. Oh my God. But then you don't say anything, you know, then you don't say nothing. And, that becomes like, listen, man, you're trying to play me for a fool, and I'm not a fool. And none of these families, that are victims, you know, um, are fools neither, and I think their struggle has enlightened them, man. You know, Kenny has transformed into a great spokesperson, for police accountability. And to get his father's story to be a movie is amazing, man. Much respect.
Much respect.
Much respect to what Kenny's doing, man. And one thing he said Saturday, which hit me, he asked the people, that he just wished that they could walk a mile in his shoes. He just wished that they could feel what he felt, in dealing with his father's death, and dude, man, I've been there up and down, man, and from talking to Kenny, I know what he's gone through, and even in his personal life, it takes a toll, man, and we have to understand the psychological effects that issues like this or incidents like this, that these families don't get justice, the psychological effects that it doesn't just have on the family, but it has on the community. It has on those who know the family. It has on, just people that see it. And there's a lack of outrage. It's crazy, It's crazy. And then, you got black law enforcement just silent, like it just won't happen to them. And it happens to them all the time. It happens to them all the time. They act like it just don't, like
It's
they
funny. It's funny, Damon. They get mad at us for bringing up these cases and for making this, talking about we making the city and the county look bad, we making all people look bad, but when it happened to them, we the first people they call.
all the time. All
We
all the
we the,
all the
we the first.
time.
Yeah,
They
I
call my
want.
new number. I don't even know how the hell some of these motherfuckers got my new number. But they call, you know, needing help. Needing help because they got in trouble and their union ain't protecting them and they got in trouble.
Yo, the funny thing is, there was a dude in Yonkers. He got arrested in his yard or whatever. Whatever the cops did to him. When he finally got out, he said he Googled who do you call um when the police violate your rights, and Black Westchester came up. He started calling the number. That was crazy. He said Google the Black
We always
Westchester just came up.
we always got trolls. Mr. Barry says black law enforcement are useless. Yeah, we're useless, all right. So
Let, let me
always,
say something else too. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, we always got trolls. You know,
Yo, I just want to throw something out real quick, and I just want to get back to that whole paying attention and the district attorney being one of the most important races that you can vote for. Everybody needs to pay attention to the candidates. The current DA, what he's done, what he hasn't done, the candidate running. On Black Westchester, we interviewed Mimi Roca. You can go pull her name up. Just Google Mimi Roca and Black Westchester. The interview will come up. In a couple of hours, I'm getting ready to interview her tonight on WVOX at 7 o'clock. And Scarpino will be on People Before Politics March 29th if he doesn't back out. Sunday, March 29th. So we need to pay attention and stop just going row A all the way and voting for who the Democrats say is their nominee. We need to critique these candidates because that is such an important position that dictates what cases are prosecuted, what cases are even investigated, what some cases won't even go to court because of the district attorney. So like I said, I'm doing these interviews, pay attention and check them out. Look at their records, look at what their pedigree, what they're about before you cast that vote in June in the primary.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that out because I got the interview coming up and we got the other one coming up.
No, man. I mean, we look, your judges, district attorneys are the most important person that you need to.
Let me ask you a question, Damien, for a law enforcement perspective. That law says that you can't pull up a cop's employment, his personnel records. What is it that he can't pull up?
All right, so let's get to that.
Because I have a follow-up question about that. As far as judges are concerned, can't you pull up their record, how they've ruled?
Yeah.
Okay, that's public record, right? That information is public record. Like anybody can get access to that.
Absolutely. Anybody can foil or anybody can request the minutes from any court case, unless it's ruled, that it should not be public record. But anybody can get any minutes. I mean, even the stuff that's submitted by lawyers, you could go online and pull up the paperwork. Any court case.
The reason I asked that because a lot of these judges, like as you know, we started interviewing a lot of them last year. We had 3 on last night. Sometimes they fall on that, oh, I can't speak about this and I can't speak about that. And then you don't really know who they are. And then they're in for 10 years. So that's what I'm saying. Like, yo, we got to go look at I asked one judge last night and the judge said, he was like, yo, don't, when they don't want to answer questions, look at their record. And the guy said his record speaks for himself. He said he'll put his record out. You look at his record. He said, look at all the judges' record. That's why I wanted to know if that was public. The public had access to that.
It is public. So part of the thing here, right? So it was. So you have the new discovery law, right? So what they said, what they said was that the judge's decision that roughly 30 officers, some with tenuous connections as potential trial witness in a manslaughter case, must answer only 6 questions posed by prosecutors, including one regarding their personal record, albeit initially by indicating yes or no. Prosecutors with the Westchester County District Attorney sought answers to the questions to comply with the new discovery laws, which compel prosecuting attorneys to routinely share the vast majority of discoverable materials with the defense attorneys. But following the judge's initial order on January, unions representing Yonkers Police, County Police, Yonkers Police Captains, Lieutenants, Sergeants Association filed a motion to vacate the judge's order, arguing that if the legislators had intended to broaden the disclosure obligations of sort of the 58 they would have repealed the statute. Well, which is that's not true. You never know if the statute would have been repealed. That's BS. Among questions the officers must now answer whether they have been convicted of a crime, whether they were aware of pending criminal charges against them, whether the court had ever ruled regarding to the truthfulness of their testimony, whether they are aware of civil lawsuits regarding the conduct in this case or any other case, and lastly and crucially, did they know of any administrative, personal, civilian complaints implicating their honesty and integrity? If the answer is yes to the question, they must know when. Then it said the judge is the gatekeeper. Now check this out. If any of the officers answered yes to the question, the judge will probably review the officer's record and determine if they were relevant and material. Should they determine they are, those portions of the officer's record will be released to prosecutors and subsequently to the defense lawyer. The judge, however, will still function as the gatekeeper to the records. That's crazy, right? So if the judge has a mindset like the judge in Kenneth Chamberlain case, where they called Mr. Chamberlain a nigger on audio, and if any of the officers there had a history of complaints of calling people niggers, it will be up to the judge to determine whether that is allowed in court. Just like the judge said that the word nigger shouldn't be used, right? So they make these decisions on what the court will know about an officer's record, which is crazy. Look, if any officer doesn't want his records to be known to the public, then they shouldn't be public officers. You understand? Because
That
of the
makes
fact,
sense.
and I really think the district attorney's office dropped the ball, once again in arguing on why. Look, I've been there 30 years, right? You can pull my records anytime you goddamn want. I really don't care because there ain't nothing in there. No more than a verbal because I pushed the wrong button on a recorder, right? That's within the last 10 years. I got one verbal in my actions. When my mother was sick, I got verbals for attendance. When my mother was sick, I had the proper paperwork. But as far as my actions, I got one verbal because I pushed the wrong button on a recorder to record a situation. And I got verbal for it. Fine. But if you're following procedure, then you shouldn't have a problem with the public seeing your records. Hell, it's the public that pay your bills. It's the public that pay your overtime. It's the public that pay your health benefits, right? It's the public that pay your salaries. So the public should know when you are violating policies and procedures. See, and this is why the legislators have failed in passing a police criminality law or a law enforcement criminality law, right? Because if they violate policies and procedures that lead to a death, they should be brought up on charges. Now, if they unknowingly violate, then how are they going to unknowingly violate policy when they should be trained in that? Then that means the department is not doing the proper training, right, or updating training, of their law enforcement officers. We get trained every year. We get 3 days that we have to go back and we have to go through New York State minimum standard. And because we're nationally accredited, right, we have different classes that we have to take to meet that standard of being nationally accredited. And I always say there's only one police department in Westchester County that has national accreditation, and that's Scarsdale Police Department. Only one.
Wow, Scarsdale.
It's only one police department. And you would think that you would get national accreditation because national accreditation is a bigger cover for lawsuits, because usually when people sue a department, they're suing them on state standards. But when you show that you're running your police department at a higher standard than state standards, it's harder to sue that police department. So I really think that it's a failure of police management to even have their police officers to get to even get to national standards, let alone that they're police standards. Because when you look at the policies, and you look at the and at the manuals, they're just copied and paste, right? They're just copied and paste. They copy it from New York City and they just copy it and they put it out there. But New York City is lacking. But New York City is the standard for New York State. So I mean, there's a problem in how these police departments, how these law enforcement departments, not just police departments, right? It's just like I said at the forum at Kenny Chamberlain, big up and big respect, I can say to my commissioners, because I know this because of the fact that they're big on training. They're big on ongoing training. Each year, they're big on having that type of training to make sure. But guess what? That I'm glad that you're back. But what comes with that training comes with accountability, because you fuck up, you're going to get rocked, right? Because you've been to that training. You should know better. You've been to that training. So if you get in there and you fuck up, you're definitely going to get rocked at corrections, because they gave you that training and you signed that you had the training. So if you go out and you go on the block and you violate your training, which if you violate training, you violate policy, they're going to rock the hell out of you. And it's rightly so. It's rightly so.
One of the things that you mentioned and has come up in several articles that we've done, I can't say most, a lot of the departments and a lot of the officers in the departments have no training in dealing with the mental illness. And had there been one that night, Kenneth Chamberlain might still be alive. Because they obviously did not, well, maybe they just didn't care. I don't know if they were trained. They didn't show, it didn't appear that they had training and how to deal with someone who had mental illness. But I know that a lot of the departments are not trained to handle individuals with mental illness.
So, Mr. Barry, no, they're not. Mr. Barry, who says that we blacks in law enforcement don't do nothing, but he decides to agree with everything we've been saying for the last 30 years.
I don't think I don't know if he's saying blacks in law enforcement as in the organization or black people in law enforcement. I wasn't clear that he was actually saying the organization.
Oh,
black
okay.
law enforcement. I think he was saying more. Now, Barry, Ralph Barry, you can clarify since you're watching. I think he was saying black cops ain't doing enough.
No, they're not. No.
If that's what he's saying, if that's what he's saying, I agree. If he's saying the organization blacks in law enforcement ain't doing nothing, then you need to just get off here at the stream right now and just Google. And I'll say that.
Well, if he says that black law enforcement in a whole is not doing enough, I will agree, right? And if he said that we are cowards, overall cowards, I will agree. I will agree that we are overall cowards because we're too busy worried about our paycheck and not worried about that there were people that came before us that sacrificed for us to be able to have this job. If it wasn't for those who sacrificed, it wasn't for those people in the community to sacrifice to make sure that we had this job, that we're able to take care of our family. We get it twisted when we stay silent and we stay complicit in the BS that happens to our community, right? So because they fought for us to have it, there's a responsibility. I think that, I started in 1990. So within a decade of me starting, so after the 2000, right, we lost our way. right? We lost our understanding because that was put into my head when I got the job. When I got into that jail, it was put into my head from officers that were my senior officers that, we didn't get you here for you to be a punk. We didn't bust our ass to make sure all these blacks got this job for you to be punks. That was told to me when I walked into the building. You have to represent. You have to represent. And now I see officers now, they don't give a shit. As long as they get some overtime and they get a paycheck, they don't give a fuck. That's not all of them, but the majority of them, yes. And that has to change, man. And then they want to cry why the black community don't like them. Because they don't see you doing shit as a whole. They don't see you doing a goddamn thing. And when we don't denounce, bad officers, then we are the problem as well.
And when you have a black officer, when you have an officer that does denounce and does speak up on the corruption, we need to support him.
Exactly. But you know what? I mean, look, it happens. We need to support him. We need to support him. We need to say what happened to that girl. That we need to say what happened to that girl in Peekskill should never happen to a black woman. Never happened to a black woman. Black female cops should be fucking outraged right now that an officer had the nerve to go to a black woman and make her get naked. Not once, not twice, but 4 times. 4 times.
And didn't it come out that he has a history of that? This ain't his first time. This ain't the first person he did it.
And this goes back to this 50A. This go back to this law that will protect an officer's background because he's a pervert, because he's an R. Kelly with a badge, right? And he's out there doing that to black women, to a black woman. And then they're going to protect him. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Black women were more vocal about R. Kelly than about this white police officer doing this to this black woman. They're more vocal about Bill Cosby, something happened 30 years ago, than something happened last month to a black woman by a police officer. And they got the nerve to talk about Me Too. Me Too what? What about her? What about does she come along with this Me Too? This woman empowerment movement? What about her? Does it only apply to black women with college degrees that's in certain groups and sororities and organizations? Or does she count? Does that girl in Peekskill count?
Because even if she was a criminal, and I'm not saying she was, but even if she was a criminal and had a criminal record, she doesn't deserve to be treated like that. Yeah, I'm not on no more.
Huh?
Oh, okay. It just got quiet real quick.
Oh no, I'm reading. It says Ralph Barry says I came on the job in the 90s and I joined the Guardian. Only realized that they are political and not into protecting the rights of black inmates. That's why I don't blame Bloomberg. I blame the cops. Okay, we're complicit while the white MOS abused their authority and presence. Well, I don't know which Guardians, I'm trying to figure out. There's different Guardians, Brother Barry. There's different Guardians. You got the Correction Guardians. You got maybe you're talking about the Correction Guardians. I don't know which Guardians that you're talking about, but my history in black law enforcement organizations, we have and my personal work in black law enforcement organizations, we have spoken out against the greater whole. Of course, the Guardians organization is their main goal is to protect the Black officer, but the submission is to protect Black people in a whole. I cannot speak on your experience, and I respect you for your experience because I came in 1992, and the attitudes was for the people, not just Black officers, but for the people also. So,
He said the correction guardians.
he said the correction guardians. Well,
Mm-hmm.
brother, I can't speak on that. I'm in Westchester, but um, um, I know that those that I know in the correction guardians were also um, for protecting the rights of inmates. So I don't know, brother. I can't speak on your experience, but I'm glad that you understand the need for Black officers to speak up on these situations and then be vocal on these situations because we do have a connection to our community and what's that about. So thank you for giving your opinion. Thank you for giving your opinion. But so we want like this ruling, unfortunately, that Judge Blackwood has given, like there have been organizations fighting to repeal the 50A, right? The 50A law. And I just want to read this article. It says, why do they want to
Wait,
repeal?
can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
I just want to say peace. I need to go get dressed and start
Oh,
getting
yeah.
ready for the WVOX show. Again, I got Mimi Roca on at 7 o'clock on WVOX 12:40 a.m. and WVOX.com if you want to check out the interview with the Westchester District Attorney candidate. I'm out. Peace.
All right. Not a problem, brother. So we have so why do I just want to go in, and I'm not gonna keep people on, man. We already been on here 67 minutes. I'm not gonna keep people long, but why do we want why are people pushing for the 50A to be repealed? It says over the past 5 years, criminal justice activists have focused on not only the acts of violence in individual police officers, but also the willingness of the department leadership to forgive, ignore, and cover up officer misconduct. In the Eric Garner death, for example, the NYPD cited a 50A refusing to release Pantaleo's disciplinary hearings history. Pantaleo's internal NYPD trial began and ongoing showed that there were several complaints for abusive stops and searches. A similar debate over the public access to misconduct records is unfolding in California, where police unions sued to block the Senate bill that will be made such recordings public. But beyond the national debates over police accountabilities, lawyers and activists also contend that the New York's 50A, in particular, is strict. Appellate court decisions over the past decade have expanded the 50A shield to cover recordings, on-duty police misconduct, such as officer assaulting a civilian during a traffic stop. Originally, the law only protected records of off-duty misconduct, such an officer selling prescription pain pills while off the clock. These rulings have made it more difficult for defense lawyers to bring such recordings into the litigation process through discovery. Only 2 other states in the country have statutes that exempt police officers from the public records law. So we have issues here that organizations will still need to fight. And in my opinion, if you are paid by the taxpayer, if your benefits are paid by the taxpayer, if your salary is paid by the taxpayer, right? If everything is paid by the taxpayer and you are a public officer, as a police officer, then your records while on duty, not your personal records, should be made public. if you're doing your job, you shouldn't have any problems with it. Period. You could take. I've been working and still active working, and I got to go to work tonight. And you could have my records. I really don't care because I didn't do anything wrong. I followed policy and procedure. So I really think at this point that, we have to look into, and this ruling of the judge just continues to help um, them hide what they were doing. I mean, if they have complaints, it should be made public. It should be made public. And, you know, we have a Democratic controlled Senate and a Democratic controlled Assembly and a Democratic um, governor. No excuses anymore. You can't blame the Republicans for not changing this bill. You have to be able to. It goes back to politics, man. It goes back to organizing, and it goes back to um, understanding how politics rules our lives. But, I think that's it. I want to thank Kenneth Chamberlain for coming on the thread. I want to thank everybody. Brother Barry, man, reach out to me, brother, in IM, man, and let's talk. I understand your pain, brother. And thanks for everybody watching. And if anybody gets a chance, in the future, please, man, let's please support the movie The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain when it comes to theaters. I think it was a great, thanks to Kenneth Chamberlain, man. Thanks to everybody who put that on, and thank you for the people that went out there, man. It was a much needed movie, and 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 Kenny says, as long as the statute 50A is on the books, it will be used to prevent the public from learning an important information about these officers, patterns, and behaviors of the officers. Bottom line, the 50A is a shield against accountability and transparency. He says, shame on Judge Blackwood, Kenny Chamberlain. And I'm sure that there will be a video to come from my brother talking about the 50A ruling of Judge Blackwood. It's all about accountability and transparency. Wayne Charles. Sorry I came late. Can you speak on the New York PBA president, Pat Lynch, how he's creating a toxic environment, how he's creating a toxic environment of police brutality? What's up, brother Wayne Charles? Look, I always enjoy talking about Pat Lynch because Pat Lynch is one of the most vocal PBA presidents in the United States. And I've always called Pat Lynch, AKA Archie Bunker. And it is a shame that Black officers still follow this man's lead when he had officers turn their back on the mayor because the mayor said that he had concern as a white man. He had concern of his Black son having police encounters, right? But what he said wasn't no different than any other Black family in this planet, on this great earth, have concerns when our children have encounters with police. It's just something that is natural. It is something that is in our DNA. We are nervous when our children have encounters with police because we hope that our children get home safe. So Pat Lynch has always used that race card and played to the racist base of the NYPD and residents of New York City to defend cops that violate policies, procedures, and training, and this whole what they call it, blue lives matter or whatever, to response to Black Lives Matter is nonsense. Only Black people are saying that black lives should just matter. Black lives should matter to the justice system. And we see every day that Black Lives. Yeah, I remember that, brother. And remember, they also put out and they took it down real quick that that if you question police, you were not real New Yorkers. They took a stab at victims of police brutality, man. Like, it was crazy. And we had and we had a press we had a press conference in front of in front of the NYPD. We had a press conference in front of the NYPD office, NYPD union office, discussing that because we were outraged that they said that. And if you give me a hot second here, I will try to bring that up and play and actually play that video where we actually went in front of the NYPD PBA, and called them out for attacking. Call them out. My name is Damon Jones. Call them out for attacking families of police brutality. And you know what? I'm gonna play this right now so y'all can see. America. And we gathered here this morning because we are outraged at the inflammatory remarks of NYPD PBA President Pat Lynch. We know too well as officers of color, as Black law enforcement professionals, of the incidents within New York City, the state of New York, and around the country. We say that we are 4 degrees separation from the victims. Either we know the victim, we know somebody that knows the victim is a family member, and sometimes we are the victim when we're shot or killed by our white counterparts when we're off duty or in plain clothes doing our job that we sworn to do. So we are saying that it has to be some sensitivity when there's a loss of life. We do understand that the PBA plays a role in labor rights, but when it comes to civil and human rights violations, he is really out of line. Now, he stated that the officer did not use a chokehold. Then what procedure of restraint did this officer use? And when was he trained to use this procedure or restraint? Show the training. Does NYPD train in that type of procedure? Because they say you should not use chokeholds. Now, we're gathered here today with a family member of Eric Gardner, and we also here with the father of Ramarley Graham, the young man that was shot and killed in the Bronx. And we also have here Noah Leader from 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. We have Corey Pegues from Law Enforcement Alliance. And I would like to bring on Noah Leader from 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care.
Good morning. My name is Noah Leader from 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. And we've come to the doorstep, to the house of Patty Lynch and the PBA to personally deliver a message that we're not political pundits, we're not politicians, we're not race baiters, we're not elected officials. We're law enforcement officers of New York City, and we're outraged at some of his comments, which are inflammatory, incorrect, and it can only cause to divide communities of color in the New York City Police Department. It's ludicrous for Patty Lynch, a longtime police officer, to declare that that officer did not use an unauthorized tactic, which is a chokehold. A chokehold, as defined by the New York City Police Department patrol guide, states any pressure to the throat or windpipe which can prevent or obstruct intake of air. If it's not a chokehold, then what is it? When Patty Lynch declared that most of the interactions between police officers and individuals in communities of color are initiated by crime or criminality, and then says that officers in the same press conference are forced to live up to quotas, which force this negative interaction, unnecessary interaction, he's incorrect. We're here to state to Patty Lynch that your comments only cause further friction and misinformation to communities of color in the New York City Police Department when we're here, and we all should be here to bridge the gap. Once again, we're at his house, at his doorstep, not as race baiters, not as pundits, not as politicians, but we're here as law enforcement officers to say, Patty, you're wrong, we disagree with you, we call for prosecution, conviction, and imprisonment of the officers that caused the death of Eric Garner.
And next up to speak is Corey Pegues, co-founder of Law Enforcement Alliance.
Good morning. Again, I'm Corey Pegues from the Law Enforcement Alliance. I stand here as a father of young black children. I stand here as a recently retired executive in the New York City Police Department. Last assignment was commanding officer of the 67th Precinct. So I'm qualified and quantified to speak on issues dealing with the New York City Police Department.
That's right.
And one of the issues I definitely know, January 1992, when I went into police academy, I had extensive training. But not one time did I have training that told me to come behind somebody, jump on their neck, put all my weight on them, drag them to the ground, continually hold the chokehold, take my grasp off his neck, put my knee on his head, and then take my hand and smash his face to the ground. All the while, we counted 7 times he said, I can't breathe. And on the 8th time, that was his last breath.
That's right.
So if Pat Lynch, who's the head of the PBA, which is in charge of 20-something thousand cops, if that's the training that we're getting in the New York City Police Department now, then the whole department needs to be restructured. The training needs to be restructured. The commissioner needs to be gone, and definitely the head of training, if that's the training that we're doing. So don't bamboozle the people, because what you're doing is giving us a very big divide in the communities. The minority communities are looking at this. Let me take a step back. Not only minority communities, all ethnicities are looking at this picture. Take a good look. Snap, get a close-up. If this is not a chokehold, tell me what a chokehold is. I want to see the expert analysis. I want to see the expert analyst that comes out to court and dispute that arm on the neck. And the patrol guy specifically says you cannot use a chokehold. You cannot put any pressure and obstruct the airway. And we also got to say that everyone standing behind me, we're all sworn law enforcement officers. The job has been tremendous for all of us. But you know what? When something is wrong, we must speak out on it. We must speak out on the injustices. Every day there's thousands of arrests. Thousands. In my career, thousands of arrests. A lot of people resist arrest, but a lot of people not dying. So I'm not buying that. And for the SBA president, Sergeant Mullins, to say last week on an interview, sometimes in police work, people die. Well, you know what? I pray to God it's not your child. I pray to God it's not your son, your daughter, or your brother that died at the hands of police. And we know that that cop that did the chokehold went to work, and he didn't want to kill nobody. But guess what? Eric Garner is dead. And he's dead because there was a litany of errors at the location. There was no supervision. Actually, there was supervision on the scene that absolutely they didn't do anything. They didn't take a step back. They didn't reevaluate the situation. Once Mr. Garner said, not today, a light bulb should have went off and somebody had one of those 2 cops saying he doesn't want to go. So we need to reevaluate, take a step back, get the supervisor here so they can, they can lead us into arresting this person. Again, we won't be bamboozled by the statements irresponsible and disrespectful statements to the minority communities by saying that arm around the neck for more than 30-something seconds was not a chokehold. Thank you.
We're going to bring up next is Dennis Jones from Law Enforcement Alliance.
Thank you all. Again, we want to refute a lot of the statements that were made by not only Pat Lynch from the PBA, but also Sergeant Mullins from the SBA. Pat Mullins indicated that the report from the ME was absolutely mistaken and that it was false. And we want to know, did Mr. Lynch go to medical school? I think that the DA, the judge, and all of the attorneys that come from the Bar Association are going to go with the report that the medical examiner has put out, as opposed to statements put out by Pat Lynch. We also know that having a person with difficulty breathing should be on his back and an airway should be provided, not turning him over on his side as PBA President Pat Lynch said that the officers did. And we have Sergeant Mullins saying something, as Corey said, sometimes people are going to die. It happens to surgeons in the hospital, but we don't sit and call for prosecution of these surgeons. I'm appalled at that statement. Is he comparing a police-involved death to a surgeon doing surgery, trying to save a life? This is what we're getting statements from our officials. This is the statements that we're getting from police department officials. We can't accept that. We have to refute that, and we have to call it as it is. So we're looking for the NYPD. We know that the NYPD is the greatest police department in the country. And we know that they get a great level of training. We know that their training is some of the best training. Then we come with these unprofessional statements. It's uncalled for. These things that are being spewed out of the mouths of the NYPD, PBA, and SBA presidents. What we expect from them is bringing decorum into the police department, bringing decorum and professionalism to the ones that are out there in the street. So we're going to call for them to come to these families that are standing here and apologize. We want them to apologize to the community, because all of the statements that they're stating are actually bringing a divide, as Noel Leader stated. We're dividing a community that we, standing here, are trying to bridge that gap. We're bridging that gap between law enforcement and community daily, and we have irresponsible statements being made by the PBA president and the SBA president. So we're deeply concerned, and we're asking the police commissioner and we're asking the mayor to come out and refute those same statements, to stand by the communities, not necessarily stand against the police department, but stand by the communities that they are out there to serve. So again, we're asking for the PBA president, Pat Lynch, and the PBA, the Sergeant, the Benevolent Association, Sergeant Mullins, to come back out and apologize to these communities for the statements that they're making. Thank you.
In closing, I would not be standing here if we weren't proud to have a badge and wear the blue uniform and represent our community and be role models for the young men and women in our community. On our own time, we go into the different communities and mentor children and talk to children so they could be law enforcement. But when young children see incidents like this and hear remarks from the PBA president, hear remarks from the commissioner, what does that do? What does that do? They do not want to be a part of this institution no more. The numbers of black officers throughout the United States are dwindling because of cases of police criminality without no accountability. So we want to say, we're not anti-law enforcement. This is not the war on cops. What we're saying, that the community and law enforcement needs to work together. There is a problem. 249 deaths after Amadou Diallo, there is a problem. And somebody needs to address it. We cannot continue to do the Hollywood shuffle politically when lives are being lost and there's no accountability. And the only recourse these families have is to go into civil court. And guess what? That's when the truth comes out. In federal deposition, that's when we find out who's lying. But still nobody goes to jail and there's no accountability. So we said we want accountability, we want fairness, and as law enforcement, we're not going to tolerate inflammatory remarks from leaders in law enforcement. Now, Frank, you want to say something? We have Frank Graham. He's the father of Ramarley Graham, the young man that was shot and killed in the Bronx.
Good morning. You know, on the day when Richard Ace, the judge dismissed the case in the Bronx, Pat Lynch said, there are no winners here. Well, Mr. Lynch, being in my shoes, Richard Ace went home to his family. And weekly, I go to the cemetery and visit my son. So tell me if I'm definitely not a loser. Because I can't hug and I can't hold my son no more. I know you have a job to do, but you need to think twice before you say some of the things you say, because all you're doing is dividing the city. People talk horrible things in the street. I think if it was just you alone, Mr. Lynch, we would have the same thing that is going on in Missouri in this city. You need to think before you speak, because the word comes out your mouth at times is very disrespectful to family and friends and people all over in this community. Thank you.
Standing to my left is Evelina Graham, first cousin of Eric Garner. She came here as a show of support for her family member, her precious cousins. She doesn't want to speak at this time. You can take some photos, but she doesn't want to speak at this time. But she's here to represent the family. I was on the phone with the mom yesterday and the sister about an hour ago. The family is very, very upset at what's going on. They want a clear, concise, thorough investigation. However, they have some gray area on knowing that there was a department regulation that was violated and there wasn't anything done to the officer. He was not suspended. That's a gray area for them. You know, as a matter of fact, speaking with his sister just an hour ago, she says that, you know, he's suspended with pay. So what happened to he's modified with no pay, so he's still getting a check every 2 weeks. Serious question that the commissioner, they must answer. Because I know as a cop for 20-some years, if a cop cursed at a sergeant, they were suspended for 30 days with no pay. Immediately. Just cursing. Or you told a cop, go to Broad Street, and he went to Water Street. You disobeyed our direct order, suspended for 30 days. But you choke somebody, which is a clear, we didn't make these words up. It's New York City Police Department patrol guide. It's right there. It's it. They said absolutely no chokeholds. So why wasn't this cop suspended?
Can I ask a question? Yeah. Lynch and Mullins made these comments 9 days ago. So why not call for an apology sooner? What's the timing now? Their comments have been out there now for a week and a half.
You want to say?
Well, I'll tell you. Well, he said why 9 days later. Well, if you've been watching the Law Enforcement Alliance, Black Police Association, 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, we have been on this issue almost every single day. He was on Al Jazeera 2 nights ago. He was on Hot 97 Street Soldiers. I've been on news. We've been on this. We've been on this from day one. So I don't want the media to get this twisted. I've been on PIX from the first day that it happened. On the morning show, 10 o'clock show at night. We've been on. I was on the phone with AM News this morning. So the media, get this right. We're not opportunists. We're not looking for anything. Nobody's running for office here. But we didn't have time to coordinate. When we do something, we want to make sure everybody's available to do it. And today was the day that we was all able to come together and do this. So let's just be clear on that. I don't want to see a newscast saying that 9 days later they came out. No, we've been out on this issue. We just haven't been able to come together to do this and have the family here, Mr. Graham and everybody together. So let's be clear on that.
Pat Lynch's job is to represent the police officers of this city. What would we have him say?
How about this?
That's what I'm asking.
How about this? I'll give him a statement. Hey, Patty, and Patty's a friend of mine. I know him a long time. How about Patty saying this? After the incident happened, you know, as the PBA president, we stand behind the officers on the scene. We're waiting for a clear, thorough investigation, and we'll have statements after that. We don't want to comment on the truth. And you go, is it a chokehold? I refrain from speaking on that issue at this time. We're going to wait until there's an investigation.
So you know Pat Lynch. Does that sound like the Pat Lynch you know?
That sounds like every PBA president in the history of the NYPD. There's no checks and balances. They just want to, you know, a good leader. I've been a leader for a long time. A good leader will tell a guy, hey, you messed up. And this is how we fix it. But don't go on national TV and tell me that the guy didn't do something that was wrong. I don't know if the cop should get 25 years in jail, but I do know that he choked the man. And you can't, my eyes, I got 20/20. My eyes are not deceiving me.
Not only telling
That's not Pat Lynch's job. Pat Lynch's job is to
Don't forget, he's a police officer as well. He has a fiduciary responsibility for the people of the city of New York. The city of New York pays his salary.
That's right.
So he has a responsibility. We understand he's a union representative, but his comments should not have been excessively disrespectful to the residents of New York City as well as the family of the deceased. So we understand his responsibilities, but he also has a responsibility to the citizens of the city of New York. He's a police officer. He's getting his salary. He will soon one day get a pension. His medical benefits, his dental benefits are being paid by taxpayers. He has a responsibility to them as well.
And he has a responsibility to human beings.
Right.
Because when you take that shoe and put it on the other foot, that's Bobby Lynch. His son, I guarantee you that would have been a chokehold.
That's right. Any more questions?
I have a react to saying it's Reverend Al Sharpton who made this a racial issue. It wasn't a racial issue until Sharpton rallied.
Well. This. First of all, this is about justice. This is about accountability. Now, he could argue with Sharpton. Sharpton's not law enforcement. Let him argue with us. But we also know, as black law enforcement officers, that these incidents of police criminality happen more in the communities of color than it happens in any other communities that's throughout the nation. And the statistics show it. So we're not race baiting. We're saying statistical facts of what's going on. But as black law enforcement, we feel just like the families feel, because we're connected to the community. We work hard in our community, and we wear the blue uniform and the badge with pride. But when they don't see us standing for justice, it makes our job even harder, and it makes every good cop, no matter what color he is, job even harder when there's no accountability for those officers that cross the line.
What needs to change so that there's more accountability for NYPD officers in those kind of incidents?
They have to start suspending them. Let's be honest. If you start suspending and firing and putting those officers on the perp walk that violate people's rights, violate their civil and human rights, things will change. When you start taking money out their pocket, things will change. That's called behavior modification. Because other officers will see that and they don't want to do it. Bratton, de Blasio is not sending the message. Bratton was elected with over 70% of people of color. De Blasio was elected with 70% of people of color. Nobody of people of color in law enforcement management.
That's right.
And now, Lynch is going to get upset that the people that put him in office want him to be accountability over the police department. He ran on that. That's what he ran on. This is his test. He might be a one-term mayor because this is his test right now. What is he going to do with the police department? Everybody was upset that he brought Bratton back. Come on. So here we are today. But we're just saying the black community should be treated like every other community.
Were you upset that Blasio brought back?
Yes, personally, yes, I was. Yes, I was. And you just see nothing's changed. Another chokehold because the Baez was what? Under Bratton's watch. Under Bratton's watch. So nothing's changed.
suggesting Bratton somehow encouraged this too.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's not sending the right message. He's not sending the right message that he's a different Bratton. He's not sending the right message. To put an officer on desk duty? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? If I did the same thing, I work in Westchester County Department of Corrections. If I did the same thing, I'm looking at 90-day suspension off the bat. And guess what? If they win an arbitration, they get it, but it sends a message. He's not sending the right message to the police department or the right message to the communities that he is head over the police department, that he claims that he's going to change, and it won't be the old one.
That's right. And what about the broken windows theory? So the broken windows theory, the quality of life issues, we've been doing it for a long time. It's been like 20 years we've been doing the broken windows. Quality of life issues, urinating in public, drinking outside, congregating on the sidewalk, loosey cigarettes. So we have made, all of us, all the cops, I can take credit with that. We have made this city the safest, biggest city in America. But now, those same tactics that we have used, we're using them and we're alienating the communities. So at what point do we say, hey, is the Daily News here? Because they did an article where all the quality of life issues being enforced at, the minority communities. So now that the people in those communities are happy it's safe, but now they're saying, hey, police department, take your foot off my neck. Please let me breathe. Yes, I am drinking a beer because I just came off Wall Street and I got fired. Officer, I'm drinking a beer. Can you give me a break? Please? I don't know how I'm gonna pay my mortgage next week. There's no discretion here. We're just locking people up, locking them up, and giving them violations where it's time for them to get a job. They got to put down that they got arrested. Any more questions?
Can you comment on what's happening in Ferguson right now?
No.
In St. Louis?
No.
What, you know what? We want to deal with Pat Lynch right now. We're doing Ferguson tomorrow. We want to deal with Pat Lynch and the irresponsible statements that the PBA president has made. And again, he's my friend. Add that I'm his friend, but I'm really upset with those irresponsible statements that was made. Thank you all for coming out. Any more questions?
Anybody write down anything specific that he said besides when he said it was not a chokehold? Anything specific?
Oh, yeah. Dennis,
Yeah, we have a lot of statements from Pat. He said sometimes people...
Yeah, go to the mic. Go to the mic.
This dude running off here. Hey, they want Pat.
Yeah. Read the stuff that he said. Incorrect.
The ones that he was saying.
It was the FBA President Mullins who said sometimes people die, right?
Right.
Yeah. SBA Mullins. Pat Lynch said that Eric Garner's death was absolutely, the medical examiner's version and conclusion of Eric Garner's death was absolutely wrong. It was mistaken when he concluded that after an autopsy, that Garner's death was a homicide. So again, Pat Lynch went to medical school. He also went on Pix 11 and stated that as in all cases where, when he was asked about the medical aid to Mr. Garner, he said we turned him to the side like we were trained to do. And again, we've never had any training in the NYPD that says turn someone to the side when their airway is obstructed or when they have difficulty breathing. And then we have the SPA's statements.
One thing I like to say, and which we have dealt with before, NYPD is not trained in CPR and first aid. So how are they first responders? Well, if they want to talk about training, maybe they need to be trained in CPR and first aid, and then they would give immediate aid to Mr. Garner right on the spot. But they're not trained. They're only trained in the academy. They don't go to yearly training to be recertified in CPR and first aid. So they're not first responders, because first responders are trained in CPR and first aid.
As far as you know, that is not the training in terms of the other side.
If someone is vomiting or things like that, then you do that.
Right, or they're having a seizure.
Or having a seizure.
But if they can't breathe,
but
you
if
don't
they can't breathe, you turn them on your back and you open their airway.
Right.
But of course, he was handcuffed, so that couldn't happen.
Yeah, and remember, they're not trained.
Didn't even bother to take the handcuffs off.
That's right. So thank you everybody. Thank you for coming out. You want to ride back with us? You going back to the Bronx?
No,